In top 5 tight ends in their second or third season, and we've got 3 of them who could have a big impact in fantasy this season. Let's talk about that right now on FFT and 5. Adam Azer and Jamie Eisenberg. All right, so the second and third year tight ends, it's an interesting, fun list. LaPorta, McBride, Kincaid. I'm sure that's going to be 1, 2, 3 in some order, but that could be the order. Anyway, Jamie, take it away. Who's number 1?
Sam LaPorta, and the number 1 overall tight end for me this year, ahead of Travis Kelce and ahead of McBride and Mark Andrews as well. I think you saw what he was able to accomplish last season in his rookie campaign with Jared Goff. Certainly finding the end zone, but just having a fantastic season overall. I'm very curious to see what the Lions do to enhance their receiving core, because you hear some rumblings out of Detroit that they want to look for another receiver, which makes sense with Josh Reynolds, a free agent. And do they decide to upgrade over what they had in Reynolds and maybe, change some of the fortunes of some of the guys there with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams joining LaPorta as well. But as long as it's not some significant addition, which, as we know, with T. Higgins, most likely Michael Pittman and Mike Evans off the table, free agency probably not the route. Maybe we'll see what they do in terms of rookies, but LaPorta should be the number 1 guy there at that spot for sure.
And then McBride. So we're just talking years 2 and 3 tight ends in case anyone's confused, but the next one would be McBride.
Yeah, I love what he was able to do after Zach Ertz was gone. We talked about some of the numbers with Kyler Murray and without Kyler Murray, but just overall, starting from week 6 on, he was the number 1 tight end if you just look at points per game for the season. So he was at 14.6. The leader, I believe, was TJ Hawkinson at 14.3. Travis Kelce was at 14.1. LaPorta was right in that range as well. So McBride was awesome, and for a year 2 tight end, taking advantage of that opportunity with a very inconsistent and incomplete receiving core. We'll see what they do. That's the big question. Are they going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. if they stay at 4? Do they still find a way to get maybe a couple of receiving options back on that team, or to increase the production of the position on that team with Marquise Brown, a free agent? So healthy Kyler Murray, full year of those 2 guys together, I think McBride's got an opportunity to even challenge LaPorta to be the number 1 tight end for next year.
I know Kincaid is 3 for you on this list. If they add Marvin Harrison, is there a chance that you could put Kincaid ahead of McBride?
Yeah, for sure. Especially if the Bills don't do anything to replace Gabe Davis, who's a free agent. So, you see an aging and maybe struggling Stephon Diggs as the season wore on last year, and we know about those struggles. And Kincaid, we talked about this in the full-length episode, how he performed when someone was missing. Mostly it was Dawson Knox, but at the end of the season, week 18 and into the playoffs, it was Gabe Davis as well. And so I just think, for this guy, in terms of pedigree, he had the best pedigree going into the NFL draft into the league. So love what he was able to do at times last year. I like to see him be more consistent. But yeah, he could easily be the number 1 tight end in fantasy next season based on how Josh Allen will most likely lean on him.
All right, so 1 LaPorta, 2 McBride, 3 Kincaid. Who's number 4?
Got to go Jake Ferguson, entering year 3 for him. Just feels like he's the steady Eddie of the group in terms of this draft class, or this group of tight ends we're talking about. Not a lot of flashiness, unless you look at the playoff game where he scored 3 touchdowns. But typically you kind of know what you're getting, because you got it from Jason Witten, you got it from Dalton Schultz, and now you got it from Ferguson basically for the last year plus. And so that is just what Dak Prescott does. He leans on this position to a certain degree. You get about 100 targets, you get about 50, 60 catches, you get about 700 yards and, 6, 7 touchdowns. And that's just basically back end tight end 1 production. So you know what you're getting from Ferguson. One of the commenters on the YouTube channel brought up, Schoonmaker and maybe the ability for him in his second year to take a step forward. And that can certainly be the case. But as long as Dallas doesn't add 2 receivers, I think if it's CeeDee Lamb, somebody else, and Ferguson will be 2 or 3 in targets, and kind of a tight end 10 over the course of the season.
All right, and we'll save the toughest one for last, I think. Who's number 5?
It'll probably be ranked as Luke Musgrave going into the season, but I'll say Michael Mayer, just based on what the upside should be for him. In terms of pedigree, he was expected to be the best tight end going into the class. At this point last season, we were talking about combine and going into the start of the NFL draft. And we know Kincaid was the 1st round pick. Mayer was in that group, with LaPorta and Musgrave in terms of the next tight ends from the rookie class coming off the board. But you look at this Raiders offense, and they have a need for some pass catchers. I know we like clearly Devontae Adams still, even though he's, starting to get to that point from an age perspective where the decline is happening. Jacoby Myers is solid as a number 2 option. And, we talked about Trey Turner as maybe a receiver in his second year could take a step forward. But Mayer definitely has an opportunity here, probably more so than Musgrave, just based on the receiving core there for Green Bay. And I think in terms of what his opportunity could be and maybe potential, he'll be the guy that I look at 5th in terms of, this group. Now, Chigo Okonkwo is somebody that I think will still have some, I hope, upside and potential depending on what the Titans receiving core looks like and We talked about some other guys. Davis Allen, for example, if no Higbee, based on his knee injury, could be somebody that gets you off to an early start. But Mayer is somebody that I think can definitely take a huge step forward in year 2. And as I said on the full length show, if there's somebody you want to say could be the next of anything, he could be the next Trey McBride in 2024.
Okay, so listen to that full length show and get more insight on these year 2 and year 3 tight ends. And we'll talk to you later this week on Fantasy Football Today in 5.